lawmakers are also working on a new budget, and we've learned cuts will be even deeper than initially anticipated.
That's because the hole in the general fund that was already $1 billion is now even bigger. Your political reporter Sean Boyd has been digging into those budget numbers for us.
While there are fewer people on the Medicaid rolls in Colorado, the ones that are the most expensive to care for, including older Coloradans. The state has the second fastest growing population of people over age 65 in the country. They outnumber those under 18. And long-term care is covered by Medicaid, not Medicare. While lawmakers agree it's a growing strain on the budget, they disagree with how to fix it. Joint Budget Committee received a sobering message from the state's chief economist, who warned the lawmakers will need to transfer up to $1 billion from the state's reserve or rainy day fund to cover expenses. And if there's even a mild recession, it will drain the reserve.
The message is we are on an unsustainable path with our budget if we don't change our spending habits.
Senator Barb Kirkmeyer, one of 6 budget writers, says lawmakers have simply overspent, pointing out the state has added more than 7,000 full-time employees in the last 6 years alone. But the biggest budget driver is Medicaid, which makes up a third of the general fund and which has ballooned by nearly $600 million in the last year, due largely to utilization by older Coloradans and people with disabilities, who make up only 9% of the Medicaid population, but account for 50% of the costs.
Where are we going to cut? Show me where all these savings are, because there's not $1 billion worth of savings to be had in this budget.
Senator Jeff Bridges, chair of the Budget Committee, says the problem isn't spending, it's the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, which limits how much the state can spend to the growth in population and inflation.
Inflation is the price of dishwashers and washing machines, and that's not what we buy as a state.
As the budget writers search for where to cut, they found a surprise in the legislature's own budget: $20 million in unspent general fund allocations from previous years. The money deposited in a cash fund used primarily for renovations at the Capitol. There are nearly 1,000 funds like this in various departments throughout the state.
So what we need to do is sunset the cash funds, fund them for a half year, and tell each of those departments to come back to us and say, what's in those cash funds? What are those cash funds used for? What's the fund balance? How much are we spending it? Where did it come from? Is it fee-generated revenue? Did we transfer general fund into there?
The legislature's cash fund was approved by lawmakers more than a decade ago. Speaker Julie McCluskey told me they're planning to return more than $4 million to the general fund and have cut the legislature's overall budget by 5%, including eliminating all interim committees this year. Kirkmeyer says she'd like to see all of the money returned, but McCluskey says they need it to move lawmakers' offices into the Capitol. Many are in other buildings right now that she says aren't as easily accessible to the public. They are also moving 200 legislative staff from the Capitol to another building that needs big renovations, including an estimated $4 million in furniture alone. McCluskey says that's on the high end, and she expects the final figure to be lower. Sean Boyd, covering Colorado First.